I can see that there is going to be a great amount of financial abundance for us, and it's almost ironic considering how turbulent the world has been recently. Yeah, no.
Sometimes to shake up the old, it's like to make way for something new, you have to shake up the old, you know. And
Yeah.
and so you can't put a new uh, a new energy in an old container. It's almost like the container has to be readjusted so that it can actually hold what's coming. And so that
Mm.
means things are shifting, that things that we're used to suddenly are getting, that it's like the rug's getting pulled from out of us because it's like those things aren't aligned anymore. And so
Yeah.
there has to be this shake up. And we've got Pluto now in Aquarius, and this is the energy of that, we've got so it's like old structures are going to be readjusted for what's actually needed going forward. And so
Yeah.
it's like that calm before the storm analogy. It's like so you can't, if you're only opening your hand this much, how can you take in this much? Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the tarot.by.thea podcast. This is the podcast where we deep dive into the current astrological and collective energies. And today I'm joined by my sister Bex. So, welcome again to the
Hello.
podcast.
Hi.
This is going to be part two from last month's podcast because we had some technical difficulties that delayed things. To say the least, it was a bit challenging that filming. So we ended up having to split the episode into two parts, and we're doing a second part this time. Now, the first part was about we were smack bang in the middle of the eclipse corridor, so we're right between the two different eclipses, and so we were taking a pulse of where things were now. But now, after last weekend, we are now officially out of eclipse season. So Bex is now going to do her reading, where she's going to do a 9 card spread that's going to be a sort of post eclipse season review. So we're going to look at what we've just let go of in the past, where we're at now, and what we expect going forward now that we've gone through this eclipse season and we're integrating all of the changes and energies that we've just embodied. So yeah, so Bex, take it away.
Okay, I'm very interested to see what the cards have to say.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of interesting energies today. So we have the Queen of Cups for the past, starting with the past,
Mm-hmm.
which is underneath the Wheel of Fortune. I don't know if you can see that. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we also have Justice underneath that. And for the present, we have the Two of Cups. We
Mm-hmm.
have the Nine of Pentacles.
Yeah.
And we have the Nine of Swords as well.
Okay.
And for the future, we have the Five of Pentacles.
Yeah.
We have the Ten of Pentacles.
Mm-hmm.
And we have the six. Sorry, the Six of Wands as well.
Okay. So let's start with the past. So remind us that is the Queen of Cups, the Wheel of Fortune, and Justice. Is that what you said?
Justice.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
What are you picking up on in terms of what we've just let go of in this eclipse season? And
Well, this is heavily around finance. Heavily around finance. It seems like there was a partnership, that is to do with partnerships. There's the Two of Cups here, which is about relationships, which is to do with the present, where you are presently.
hmm,
And they seem to be in a, it seems to be in a good place financially currently, but there is worries here. there's stressors, you know.
Yeah.
There's worries to the future, and I think justly so, because we have the Five of Pentacles here, you know. So this is heavily around finance. I think there's been a lot of worries around money, but I think this partnership has a lot of positivity to it. You know, we have the Wheel of Fortune, we have Justice, and we have the Queen of Cups in the past, and we have the Two of Cups in the present. So this partnership has been naturally evolving, and there was a lot of trust here. But I'm also seeing that there may be a third party that's coming into this. A party that, I don't know, a party that is going to be looking, not necessarily coming between this partnership, but is going to be addressing some, I guess, unresolved issues here.
There's an opportunity.
I think, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But there's a mother figure here as well. It's about nurturing. What are you getting, particularly? Is there anything coming to you?
When you first laid them out, I remember, again, on the financial side of things, what came to me was the idea that we may go through a period where we're going without for a bit, but it's leading us to something much more abundant in the end run. And because the Six of Wands could be about a success, a victory. So it could be maybe we're going again, if you remember it in the previous one, we had this thing about going from the Five of Pentacles to the Knight of Swords, and that was more about an aimlessness and not feeling stuck and going into clarity. This feels like the similar kind of energy, but in the financial and abundant area. So it's like we're going through a period of lack so we can go into abundance, almost like so that we can value it more, and maybe perhaps
Yeah.
handle that energy, because unless you like know how to work with the energy of abundance, it can slip through your fingers. So maybe we're given an opportunity to learn its
Yeah.
value and to be able to be responsible with that energy so that we can actually receive it and make the most of it, and then successfully use that abundance. So that thread came through for me when you played.
Because there's the Nine of Swords, and there's a lot of worry there.
Yeah, and that's the present, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of worry here around finances and around this partnership. Yeah, you're absolutely right about abundance, about not just manifesting, but knowing how to accrue abundance as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I might draw 3 more cards if that's okay.
No, do what feels aligned.
Just to get some more clarity. Okay, yeah, so we have the Two of Pentacles, which is about juggling your finances, you know. And we have the Empress, and they have the Hierophant. Oh no, sorry, it's the Six of Pentacles, sorry. I misread that. The Empress is, yet again, we're getting another nurturing mother figure here.
Mm-hmm.
There's a strong female presence here within the cards. And, you know, the Hierophant is about mentorship, it's about leading, and it's about also acquiring knowledge as well, you know. So I think there's definitely going to be a lot of nurturing support during these times of worry, which will lead to this stability within the finances, stability within this worry. You will accrue your abundance, you will financially stable. But I can understand that there is a lot of worry still undercurrent of worry within this partnership. But it will stabilize. It will not only nurture this woe, this troubling time, but you will find your feet again. You know, you have this natural evolution that is incredibly positive. You know, it's incredibly positive, but this is heavily to do with finances. You know,
Yeah. And it's
I
not
mean,
surprising considering the part one, we talked a lot about abundance in that as well. So it's
yeah,
following on from that. But yeah.
yeah. I mean, this card is, is about having that fear of holding on to your finances, holding on to your material possessions, feeling like there's an insecurity there. So you have to almost grasp onto it.
Attachment.
And yeah, but then you have the Empress coming in that is almost easing those woes, nurturing that abundance, almost like bringing light to the situation, you know. So there is a heavy female maternal figure structure here. You have four very maternal cups that are coming in to nurture you, to ease your mind. And so if you are struggling with your money, if you are struggling with not just your finances, but your earthly possessions, like your earthly attachments, then there is going to be a light at the end of this tunnel, and it's going to happen very quickly. There's
I mean, to go
yeah,
from
there's a
the Five
lot.
of Pentacles to the Ten of Pentacles, that is a quick shift, actually.
Exactly. So be at ease that this is a very fleeting moment. This partnership will be renewed in strength. This partnership will be nurtured into blossoming. That's what I'm absolutely getting here. It's about trusting yourselves, trusting your partner as well.
I'm also just picking up on, like, because you said there was a lot of feminine energy in this, whether this is
Yeah.
a feminine lineage healing, because we talked about ancestral trauma and clearing ancestral trauma in our lineages last time. And I'm wondering if this is like a healing of those lineages, which is allowing abundance to come through. Um,
Mm.
maybe there's even ancestral support that's helping us at this time so we can learn to receive again, and actually handle the abundance that's on its way. Um, so I'm wondering if there's something to that as well. Yeah.
Well, the Empress always reminds me of very grounding yourself, not just within this life, but within all lives, that interconnection of all things. That was always what I loved about this card, that it's about not just nurturing this life, but almost healing an entire ancestral line. It's about understanding yourself, knowing yourself, coming forth so that you can almost blossom and be reborn, because she's always pregnant, which I always loved. It's about the it's not just about fertility of all things, but it's about allowing yourself to grow. So having something grow within you, having that new life that you can accrue within yourself, that rejuvenation, you know. And so the Empress, this maternal figures that keep cropping up here within the cards, are going to be healing, absolutely, not just this line, but your ancestral lines as well. I mean, there's definitely a connection between past reading, which I have to be honest, I'm struggling to remember, but you keep reminding me of things which you keep coming up, and this reading as well. You know, the Five of Pentacles is always, to me, a temporary card. Yes, it's suffering, but it's temporary suffering. You know, it's not something that is a permanent figure. But it also reminds us about being kind not only to ourselves but also being kind to others. That generosity that we can give to ourselves. You know, they almost pays it forward. You know.
Yes, because the Nine of Pentacles can be about being sort of sovereign and independent, particularly in a financial way. You know, so again, it's almost like the ability to be self-resourcing, self-sustaining again.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, there's a lot of focus on the financial here.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's definitely about being a, like you say, a self-made person. You know, this is coming from something that you have earned. You know, like this partnership that you have that keeps talking about, this 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 very materialistic and financially heavy reading is is also about, this is something that you've nurtured yourself. This is something that you've grown yourself. This is something that you didn't have handed to you, that you had to work incredibly hard to achieve, and that you have every right to be proud of. You know, you have every right to feel the fruits of your labor and to be proud of that. You know, because this is something that is a temporary woe. Like these woes that are coming in, these troubles that are coming in, they're very temporary and they're very easily resolved. And out of this, you'll find you'll get even more blossoming. You'll find you'll get even more growth because you have so much nurturing here, and it's reminding you of all that you have achieved as well. You know.
And also, I'm getting that with the Wheel of Fortune and Justice in the
Yeah.
past, it's almost like what I'm getting from that is this eclipse season that we've just gone through, with also the Pisces season of tying up karmic ends with the 9 years. This has been a big closure that we've just gone through and a big sort of like releasing. Um, it feels like that is like, okay, now the tables can be turned, and that which was, it's like justice is being served. So it's
Yeah.
like where you've gone without, now you've done the work. Now you're ready to learn how to receive again.
Mm.
So it's like the tables are being turned in that, and I
Mm.
think that work has already been completed now that we've come out of eclipse season. And now it's just a case of integrating what we've just gone through so that we can actually start to receive. And in that integration, yes, we might get this Nine of Swords energy because it's like we're in unfamiliar territory. We're learning to receive in areas where we've only known lack. And so there is like this dissonance of energy. If suddenly it's like we have to receive this like positive energy where we're used to having, you know, either a negative view on things, or you know, because it could be that we're letting go of beliefs like or of, you
Yeah.
know, the like identities of like you always have to struggle to get just enough to survive. You know, these old templates that we're letting go of, which we talked about in the last episode. So it feels like
Mm.
there's a readjustment so that we can actually, even though we've done the sort of groundwork, it's like suddenly a case of, oh, we're on the other side now. And like,
Yeah.
it's like when you're kind of walking on, you're suddenly in a safe space after not being in a safe space, but there's still a part of you that's looking around for danger, but
Exactly.
there isn't, and it's just like getting used to that. You're like your nervous system has to acclimatize to the fact that something has energetically shifted. And
Yeah.
in doing that work, so that you're embodying like this higher timeline, higher frequency of I am somebody who's abundant and can receive what she deserves or he deserves, that that then puts you into the place of attracting in that abundance that's just waiting to come in. So it's like we're in that like stage of just adjusting to this new position we find ourselves in. So that's
Exactly. Exactly. It's about, it's also about taking stock of all that you have achieved. There's it's understandable. It is incredibly understandable to always feel like the penny's going to drop at some point, that this isn't going to stay how it is. But some things, they do work out. Some things do stabilize. Some things you you absolutely have worked for and earned for, and you are entitled to reap the benefits of. And this going into the new equinox, that we were talking about in the past read, I can see that there is going to be a great amount of financial abundance for us, and it's almost ironic considering how turbulent the world has been recently. Yeah, no.
sometimes to shake up the old. It's like to make way for something new, you have to shake up the old, you know.
Yeah.
And so you can't put a new uh, a new energy in an old container. It's almost like the container has to be readjusted so they can actually hold what's coming. And so that
Mm,
means things are shifting, that things that we're used to suddenly are getting, it's like the rug's getting pulled from out of us because it's like those things aren't aligned anymore. And so
yeah.
there has to be this shake up. And we've got Pluto now in Aquarius, and this is the energy of that. We've got so it's like old structures are going to be readjusted for what's actually needed going forward. And so
Yeah.
it's like that calm before the storm analogy. It's like so you can't, if you're only opening your hand this much, how can you take in this much? And
Exactly.
so it's
Everything
that
runs
it's
by.
readjusting the container. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. You can't hold back the dam very well, can you, with a plaster? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, it's a very interesting year that we're going to have ahead of us. Very interesting year. And I think there's going to be a lot of abundance for all. And I think we should trust ourselves and trust the situation enough to enjoy it.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
when I set up my cards, the root card I got was temperance. So this is
Oh, nice.
it's also a very healing time. So it's almost
Mm,
um, so it's like it's time for something. With you see with justice and the Wheel of Fortune, it's time for something to shift majorly. It's time for us to move into this next phase. It, and in doing so, it's going to be a very healing process. Not just for ourselves, but for our lineage. Um,
mm,
so, yeah, it's just the natural sort of friction right now of things when they actually do shift. And then you have to like readjust, you know. But it's like the necessary groundwork has already been
mm.
completed. It feels like in this eclipse season.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I just checked mine, and mine is the devil, which is warnings of procrastination.
What's the card underneath it? Just out of curiosity. Clarify.
The Page of Wands,
Page of one.
which
So
is always new paths, new beginnings. Yeah.
it's going on adventure, spiritual initiation. Um,
Yeah.
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 But again, it can be the fear of stepping onto that new path, right? So
Yeah. Ex-
devil and that. So yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. No. I
Fear of
mean,
the unknown. Yeah.
I always love the picture of the devil regarding regardless of what card it is, because you can always just undo the colors yourself, but they never do.
Yeah.
It's like the choice is procrastination. The choice is to stay in that situation. The choice is, there before you, but you're choosing not to use it. And I always like the imagery of that card. It's about choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And sometimes we choose not to see that there's a choice.
Yeah, that's very true.
But I think this is very positive read for the year ahead. And I think it's about trusting that you can get through minor turbulences, trusting that you can get past minor bumps in the road. That you will get to the fruits of your labor. You will get to enjoy stability and consistency.
So I see a couple more things. So one of the things I see with the future line, we've got so we talked about the Five of Pentacles going to the Ten of Pentacles and there being a
Yeah,
success there. And then we get the Four of Pentacles. And so one of the ways you can see that card is about an inheritance. It's almost like this is our like divine inheritance after going through like after excuse me the justice that we're receiving. And so it's like the this is something that I think is like generational wealth. So this
yeah,
generational shift in abundance that's going to not just improve our lives, but the lives of future generations. So it's almost like resetting things um, for all the lineages that we have together as a collective, you know. So it's far bigger than just what we as individuals are going to receive. So I'm seeing that.
yeah,
The other thing I'm seeing with the Two of Cups in the present, although this can be about maybe how our relationship shifted after we did all the work with the relationship access node that we came out
yeah,
of in January. That was an 18, 19-month process. Um, but it can also be about soul agreements or
yeah,
agreements, partnerships. So this could be about how um, we're showing up for one another during this like transition that we're going from, you know, having let go of the past, not quite fully into what we're about to step into. We're in that sort of like in between phase where we closed one door, we haven't quite opened the door to
yeah,
abundance. Um, and so maybe there are certain people, like you said, third parties coming in, but it could be like, and that could be any kind of relationship, but maybe people coming in to actually assist us in seeing where are we still not in alignment that we can't receive something. So it could be, you know, soul contracts coming in so that we can actually learn to open up to what's coming and open that door to abundance. So I think that touched on what you said, but it
yeah. Yeah.
connect.
I totally agree. I totally agree. Yeah, like I think it's also about it's not just about material wealth. It's also about emotional abundance as well, and emotional stability and emotional um, our stability and abundance within relationships that we have as well. Throughout the year, the people that are coming in that can be nurturing, that can people that have been steadfast within us, that have come in not just to nurture us but to guide us as well. And to help us achieve that stability within us, and stability within our relationships as well, the natural evolution that that takes, you know. But it's also about us having to take charge of these situations as well. I'm getting there's having to be willing to receive that help as well. No.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because one of the things I've seen with the past, so the extra clarifier you got was the Hierophant there. And so it feels like with the combination of Wheel of Fortune, Justice, and Hierophant. It's almost like this is a spiritual, not only is spirit leading us through this shift, um,
Mm.
that is a just reward for the hard work, but it's like, um, this feels like a spiritual, it's like a key to, like a spiritual initiation or path, like setting onto, because we had that uh Page of Wands at the bottom talking about setting off onto this adventure. And I feel like that it's almost like this has been, okay, I'm getting ordained by spirit. So this shift is okay, so I'm getting, it's like a massive collective shift that's needed.
Yeah.
And it's been, again, I'm getting the divinely timed. So that to happen at this point. And it's like this is a spiritual initiation for a lot of people to learn how to let go of the old, that way of
Mm.
the, to receive the new. Um, and it's almost like those who can make the transition, it's not only I'm getting, it is a spiritual test to be able to sort of like take that journey over from one world into another. So it's like a pilgrimage, to let go of your older self that is used to the old way and used to the lack, to actually make the pilgrimage from that into somebody who can receive again, being that Empress or being that Nine of Pentacles, you know. Um, that this is like a spiritual initiation in itself, be it this
Yeah.
transition that we're going through. And obviously, right now, we see the Nine of Swords in the present. So, this, what we're grappling with, what we're struggling with, this is almost the spiritual. It, I want to say test, but that's not enough. I feel like that was almost what we've just come out of. This is almost like the
Right.
integration. And it's like, this is what's going to make or break whether you, how long it takes for you to be able to receive what's coming, because the more you resist and grapple with it, or perhaps struggle with the shift and the unknown, and stay in the fear of it, the longer that you're delaying receiving that. It's almost like, you were talking about with the devil, how you can choose to take the shackles
Mm.
off at any time, and it's how long does it take you to take the
Yeah.
shackles of lack and scarcity. And
Or to be aware that you can do it.
it's just like, now it's literally the prison door is open. It's like, are you ready to walk out? Are you
Yeah.
ready to walk out and go into that beautiful garden that's out there? And it's
Yeah.
how long? It's almost like the Pluto's cave thing, you know. And so it's like, how long does it take you to actually make that transition from, you've been freed, but can you now free yourself by walking out that?
Yeah.
And that's
I
where,
mean, there was this there was this video clip I once saw, and I think it perfectly sums this up of how people can be stuck without realizing it. There was a gorilla who had been in a cage for so long that they opened the door, but he didn't understand that an open door meant freedom. And I think that kind of correlates with this, is that sometimes you can be showing something but not be actually made aware that to walk through that door or to walk that path can actually give you not just freedom but a complete upheaval of your life in the most positive way. You know, it can completely transform your life in the most positive way, either by people that come into it or by situational shifts, you know. And I often think about that gorilla. Whenever I think about being stuck, I often think about that gorilla, and I often think about that cage door open. And it's the exact same way with sheep, that you can take away the fences, but so long as you leave the gate there, they will all funnel in and cram onto themselves to walk through, to run through this gate. And we can be very much like that in ourselves, that we can be so conditioned into our thinking, or so conditioned into our beliefs, or so conditioned by a situation, that when we are shown a door, it's not just enough to be shown a door. We have to almost learn to walk through it again. You know, what that door actually means.
And we've
You
got
know,
throat chakra kicking in, and we've got the Nine of Swords, and swords can be words and the
mm,
way we think. But I think particularly the way we vocalize, so how we speak around our sense of uh, wealth and abundance. So if we're always talking about, I don't know how, I'm always scrimping and shaving. There's always robbing Peter to pay Paul. Always, there's never enough. If we're speaking like that, we're spell casting, and
yeah,
so we are creating. That's the vibration we're putting out, and that's what we're going to see reflected back. So, I think because that was very adamant to come through, I think we're being told by spirit that particularly the way we speak about our level of abundance or that lack thereof is really vital right now. So I think
yeah,
that we have to be very mindful about how we talk about it. And if you can't say something positive, then say nothing at all. There is an exercise of trying to, how do I frame my current situation in a positive thing? Can I just say I'm, I'm doing without sort of spiritual bypassing it, without
mm,
pretending, being lost in a delusion. But how do we find the balance between accepting the reality of where you are right now as it is and spinning it and framing it in a positive way so that we are, I mean, it could even just be the way that we talk about the future abundance that we're coming in, but then we're still placing that in the future. So how do we talk about it in the present, as if it's already here? Um,
I mean, yeah. It's like understanding to change your entire viewpoint on things. You know, that if if we don't understand how to shift our perspective, it's like we can condition ourselves as well with our own perspective. We can condition ourselves with our own beliefs, with exactly like you were saying, with how we talk to ourselves, how we talk about situations, how we talk out loud. If it's incredibly negative, then you're feeding that cycle, you're feeding yourself that energy on negativity. And so that's what you're going to be breeding, that's what you're going to be growing, that's what you're going to be like bringing into yourself. And you can almost be infected by negativity. You can almost be, you can almost, it's like having an infection, a chest infection, or having an illness. It's the same way. The brain can get sick, but your soul can get sick as well. And you can make yourself sick, you can make your soul sick with how you interact with yourself, how you interact with others, how you interact with this material plane.
yeah. So I'm just getting I just got through the training wheels have been taken off when it comes to learning to manifest, particularly with
Yeah.
abundance. So it's almost like we're learning how do we actually attract this in our lives. It's almost like what I'm getting, it's almost like an embargo's been lifted, or like because we've actually reached this point of divine timing, and things have shifted and we've done this work. It's almost like the delay of manifestation because it wasn't time yet has passed. So now the delay, if it is about because learning to receive and learning to manifest. So it's like it's just waiting in the wings to be called
Mm,
in. It's almost like we have to learn what we need to do within ourselves to bring it in now. It's not being
mm.
withheld because it's not time for it. It's being withheld because we're not learning how to bring it towards us. So there's a shift there. I just got, yeah,
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Which brings us into the wheel of fortune and the natural evolution. But it could be the natural evolution of our psyche, the natural evolution of our speech patterns as well. The natural evolution of our interactions with ourselves, with people, and with how we interact with our own environment.
Yeah.
No, it's the same thing as, a sprout is going to grow far better if you speak positively to it than it will negatively, and you're feeding that sprout, you're feeding that plant, that energy, and it responds to you. I mean, they did studies on plants that show that how we speak to it, the music that we play, the environment that we give it, shows how nurtures it is, shows how well it grows in that environment. So it isn't just simply about food and water and sunlight. Plants need so much more. Our material plane needs so much more. Just like we spiritually need so much more than just the basics to survive. You know, Maslow's hierarchy of need is more accurate than we give it credit. you know.
What just came through to me as you were saying that was this whole connection to relationship in the really could be our relationship to money, to abundance, to the magnetizing of these things to ourselves. Like, what is our relationship with money, for
Yeah.
it? Or having enough to eat, or having a stable home, or whatever the things where you've had difficulty in this area of your life. If we take money, for example, we have a lot of beliefs associated around the money is or evil and things like that. Naturally, we would want to distance ourselves from that then. Maybe we have to learn to have a better relationship with these things, and perhaps even the universe, trusting that the universe can provide these things for us. So it's like, so maybe it's a nurturing of these relationships so that actually the energy can flow in a positive way between us rather than sort of almost blocking our blessings because we've got these subconscious programmed beliefs of this means this. And so this may be part of the unwinding that we're seeing with the Nine of Swords as well, is these subconscious or unconscious beliefs that we have attached to the things that are actually on their way to us in all the forms that abundance can come. So
It very much reminds me about what is happening with the luxury market at the moment. About there is this mistaken belief that if you go to the shop of Louis Vuitton, say for example, you're getting this high quality thing, and it just came out that all of these products are made in China, and that doesn't mean that they're badly made. They're beautifully made products, but it's the shift in belief, the shift in belief. It's just an example of perspective of what we tell ourselves, that this shop is better because it has this name, or it is better for us if we do this thing because it has this property in it. But it's this shift in belief that what we tell ourselves isn't necessarily accurate. It's just what we've been told to be tell ourselves on mass on belief, because that's what society tells us is accurate. But I mean, we have to always remember to question things, that just because something is told in repetition, does that mean that it's actually accurate? Stephen Hawking himself was corrected by, an excellent student at Cambridge, in a lot of his work. So just because something is said enough doesn't necessarily mean it is accurate.
yeah, exactly.
It goes back to words again, doesn't it? It goes back to what we tell ourselves. It goes back to what we understand and what we put into our environment.
Every time we speak something like a certain brand is good, or that's, we are basically adding energy into
Yeah,
belief, and that is what we're going to see reflected back to us. We're going to see evidence of that reflected back to us. And so it's the same thing in that we can take the energy that we're putting into I'm someone who doesn't I'm someone who's poor, or I'm somebody that always struggles, or whatever these identities are, we can put that energy into I'm someone who can attract my needs effortlessly. And the more you
yeah,
do that, that's what you put in your energy into. The more you believe that, that's what's likely to be reflected back to you. And now we're at a
yeah,
point where the lag between the intention and the manifestation could be much shorter because there aren't these like like divine things holding things back because it's not time for it yet. So it's almost like like I say, the training wheels are off. The start gate is open. You can go forward if you want, but it's up to you. You can stay still in this, pen that you're used to, or you can actually go off to the races, And so,
Yeah, you just reminded me of the silver mine method. A lot of what we're talking about actually is reflected in the silver mine method. And I'm never someone who believes in absolutes. So just because I read something or I think something holds weight does not mean that I believe that it is an absolute accuracy, is an absolute truth. I think you have to find your own feet with things. You have to find your own way, your own path. Just because you are told something, you have to do your own research to see, is this actually accurate for you, or is this actually true in itself? And but a lot of the silver mind method exercises are about, well, being able to visualize, being able to understand the world around you, being able to manifest, and being able to open ourselves up to how we interact with this material plane. And and the more that we do these exercises, the more we become more aware of our own environment and the language that we use and how important that is. And so I think a lot of those exercises, I don't know if anyone's interested in looking into it, but I think a lot of those exercises are interesting. I think a lot of those exercises actually have some value to them and have some weight. But I would never be someone who says that something is an absolute de facto standard set in stone, because I think when you live in de facto standards and set in stone, you're closing yourself off to everything else. You're closing yourself off to, well, what if there is some truth to this, but it isn't entirely accurate, or it isn't entirely truthful to me, and it isn't entirely working for me, but some of it does. Working in absolutes means that you are actually being very close minded and very close fist, ironically. You can be so open minded to some things, but by being so open minded, it means you're disregarding ever like other truths or other thought processes. And I think by doing that, you're actually only seeing part of the story. The world has truth within it. You can watch a movie and it has, a very good truthful quote in it. Just because the source is a movie doesn't mean that that quote or that the sentence that was said was any less truthful. You know, I think we should pull knowledge from many resources, I guess is what I'm saying.
and that's why it's no matter what it is that you're observing or consuming in terms of content or whatever, by
Yeah.
putting it through your body and using your own sense of intuition of what's in line is so important because you can find these hidden gems anywhere, you know. And
Exactly.
and so, but yeah, yeah, because
I think I think there is power in being open, but there's also, I think there's power in also knowing yourself. I think knowing yourself is the key to finding what is truthful for you. And I think what is truthful for you and what is truthful for the world can sometimes be in line. But I think when you are told what to believe, or you are told what is truthful, or you are told what is accurate, I think it makes you very rigid in how you interact with the world. And I think if you are rigid in your and steadfast in your beliefs, I think it makes you miss some things. It makes you miss some truths, and it makes you never be open enough to find questions to answers you are maybe not brave enough or not ready enough to look for, you know. So be flexible.
Yeah, because what gets reflected back to us, the spectrum of what gets reflected back to us is very much in terms of how open we are. If we have a
Yeah,
viewpoint, we end up in an echo chamber.
yeah,
So the danger is that we see the evidence we want to see and we ignore everything else.
yeah.
We get that
It's the
cognitive
same
bias.
statistics. Yeah,
If we're able to be open to different points of view or to changing our mind, as we've talked about, letting go of old beliefs and opening up to things that are a new way of being, then it allows the universe to reflect a lot more back to you and a lot more of yourself back to you as well, because ultimately any of these shifts that we're talking about, they require an internal shift within first before they can
yeah,
easily be reflected. It's like if you're going about your day and you're doing an affirmation of I deserve abundance, but then you're going throughout your day denying yourself over and over again because you don't think
conflict.
it's worth it or you don't think you've got the money for it, then those are
Yeah,
in conflict. And you're basically saying to the universe lip service, but you're not backing it up with action. And so there is this internal conflict, and that has to be resolved before the universe can actually give you something. Otherwise, it's going to be chaos, And
yeah.
so it's like, so yeah, it's there's a lot of work that has to start from within.
Synchronicity.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to know yourself and synchronicity. And I mean, I spend my days because I find in myself that, sorry, I know we're going on a tangent here, but I find in myself that I I have to be mindful of my knee-jerk reactions because of like my childhood and how like parts of our family were with like I've with religion. I find that I have to be wary of my knee-jerk reactions because I think that they're very unfair. And I think, well, why am I having these knee-jerk reactions to certain things? And is that fair? Or is this, related to a trauma because of that? And is this closing me off to certain things because I'm having knee jerk reactions? And it's like my knee jerk reactions, I'm just going to say it, or to do with Catholicism. And I have to be very mindful and respectful of the fact that, Catholicism can be beautiful to things, and I have nothing against it. It's just my knee jerk reaction is when someone uses it to cause pain or uses it to stifle someone else or uses it to say that someone is unloved by God, and then I think, well, how fair is that? But I have to. That's just an example of my knee jerk reaction. I have to think, well, why do I have knee jerk reactions, and is this closing me off? Like, and I find that it's not just with Catholicism. Like, I find that due to my own trauma, I have knee jerk reactions to things, and I have to think. I have to reset my mind and go, well, one, is this fair? Two, where is this coming from? Three, what am I going to do to resolve this? And four, is there any truth here that I need to look at to learn? Like, is there a lesson here that I need to learn? And so I'm constantly having to recalibrate myself in a way, to go, hang on, where is this coming from? Because I'm so open with some things, but I'm human. I have flaws and I make a million mistakes a day and I'm so clumsy, but I'm aware that I have this within me. And so I have to, in order to be fair, in order to be just, I have to go, where does this come from? Why am I having this? What am I missing by having it?
Hmm.
What is there any truth that I'm not learning?
Yeah.
Because this knee jerk reaction is within me. And so It's a flaw that I'm constantly trying to recalibrate and go, ha, no, let me grab you before this snowballs into something I don't want it to be. Let me just grab it now and rewind you and go, whoa, where did this come from?
Yeah.
What was this about? And so that's my human frailty coming in. That's my human, flaws that I have to recalibrate. But I think it's important to do that.
Yeah.
I think it's important to catch yourself and go, why do I close myself off to this, but I'm open to this? Yeah, and I think it's
That's
important
like,
to ask yourself these questions of where did these biases come from? Where did these knee-jerk reactions come from? I don't know. Do you think I'm right in what I'm saying? Do you think
that's the kind of practice we need in all situations, because it's like if we take this a situation about struggling to receive with abundance that we've been coming through with the cards, it's like whenever we have a reaction where we're denying ourselves, or we are
yeah,
feeling like we're not worthy of something, or we or even if we get scared in an opportunity or
yeah,
something that would lead to something we're not used to, then
yeah,
those are the kind of things that we have to like reprogram, we have to investigate and dig into, because they're coming from a place that's like so ingrained that it's basically sort of subconscious, or it's something that's ancestral, that a pattern, a template that's coming through that we're not even consciously aware of, because we don't even live those lives.
yeah,
And it's like that's exactly the method, that you want to do. You want to catch yourself as soon as you can, want to examine it, like in those ways you just talked about. And because you're reprogramming the mind, and this is what that Nine of Swords,
yeah,
it's basically what I'm feeling is the old programs are going to still be fired, even though we've done that work. Yes, exactly. Being up at late at night, because
yeah,
some people, there's that whole phrase of people, but some people are afraid of success. Why? Because they're not used to it. Their nervous system is not used to it. They don't know how to handle it. They haven't been trained how to handle it. They don't have experience of it. And so being without is familiar. And so we
yeah,
have to learn to reprogram ourselves. And that's what we're
yeah,
doing now. That's what we're
yeah.
doing. Your light just went crazy there, by the way.
I know, I know, I know. It's always a good sign. It's
Yeah,
always a good,
exactly.
yeah, no. Yeah, I think there's a beautiful thing in erring to be human, but you need to understand, why do I err?
Yeah.
Where does that err come from? Yeah, no, and being able to ask those questions, there's a beauty to it. I always forget the name of it, but there's this beautiful philosophy in Japan of taking something broken and repairing it and using gold gilding to make it something into something beautiful again. And I always think that's the very definition of humanity, is we are so broken and we're so frail, but there's this beauty that we're constantly repairing ourselves and turning our flaws and our frailties into something so much beautiful and so magnificent. And I think there's a real strength there as well. Being able to go, these are my flaws, these are why I
Yeah.
and I think if you have knee-jerk reactions, it's always important to go, why do I have this? Where's this come from? Because why do I have these biases, or why do I suddenly like find myself internally flinching and going, why am I doing this? Why does something make me go,
Yeah.
and and want to run for the hills? And it's important to ask yourselves, where did these come from? Why does it unsettle me?
Yeah.
Why do I have openness to all of this,
Mm.
but this one thing over here I'm closed off to? And
Yeah.
is there any truth that I could find there, amongst maybe stuff that I don't find truthful for myself, but is truthful for other people, or I don't find helpful for myself, or is helpful for other people? And that's okay. The whole beautiful thing about humanity is that we're like our fingerprints, we're all different, and it's okay to be different. It's okay to err. It's okay to constantly question, so long as you ask yourself why. And it's okay to ask yourself why. It's okay to be flawed. It's okay to be frail, and it's okay to stumble.
And it's also okay to heal. It's also okay
Yeah,
to receive. It's also okay to know that you're worth, and these are the things. It's like, I think sometimes we focus on, like you say, our flaws because they need
yeah,
work, they need examining. But we also
yeah,
need to acknowledge that we are all these beautiful things as well. We are all these positive things as well. And so it's like, I don't know if you know the thing about if you have a positive thought and a negative
yeah,
thought in the brain, the positive thought will have, the negative thought will have 10 times the impact of the positive thought. So what does it mean? It needs a lot more positive reinforcement. It needs a lot more energy into the positive thing. So it's like we have to reshift where we're putting our energetic focus, you know? Yeah.
and it's like you can do. It's almost like retraining your brain with like positivity. You can retrain your brain to respond to yourself more positively with positive reinforcement, And I am a big believer in cake, celebrating everything with
Oh,
cake, putting it out there to the universe that, if you want to positively reinforce yourself, I don't know if you can tell this, but I'm a big believer in cake, and there's nothing wrong with that. Cake
no,
is fantastic.
you
So
deserve.
reward yourself with cake. Yes.
That's Bex's takeaway from today. Cake. Get yourself some cake.
Even if it's just a Tuesday, there is nothing wrong with rewarding yourself with cake and saying, "Well done, me."
That's learning to receive as well, and
Exactly.
knowing you're deserving of a treat.
And who doesn't like a lemon drizzle cake? And if you say you don't, then you're wrong because it's amazing.
Bex, you got to be open. Remember,
Oh
tell
no, I
the truth.
receive. I love all cake without bias. I
Yeah.
do. I do. I do not discriminate against cake. I love it. But no, seriously, in all seriousness, there is nothing wrong with doing positive reinforcement. There's nothing wrong with rewarding yourself. There's nothing wrong with reminding yourself that, I deserve this. I deserve, little joys in life, reminding myself, doing positive reinforcement, because the world won't always do it for you.
Exactly.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. So I hope everybody enjoyed that reading and this two-part series we've done with the Psychic Sisters. No doubt you'll be back with us, Bex, in the future. I really enjoy these readings with you, so
Love it.
keen on.
Oh, it's amazing. As always, it is always amazing, and it's always a pleasure doing this with you. Yeah.
And yeah, so if you enjoyed this reading and maybe if you saw something in the cards that we didn't mention, then feel free to write us in the comments. It's always nice to see what other people see in the cards.
Yeah.
And if you like what we're doing, then feel free to subscribe. And so until next time, keep shining. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.